Hello and welcome to the Bezalel Edwards Show, Kabbalah in the Morning with Rabbi Phil. I'm your host, Bezalel Phil Edwards, and you're not. So in the last segment we discussed the fear of God and true fear as a vessel for faith. Today we're going to discuss the human deficiency and human perfection. After discussing the necessity of fear in one's relationship with God, and the various types of fear, from lower to higher, the author now discusses genuine vessels. Genuine versus false fear. Genuine vessels of fear versus false vessels of fear. Whereas genuine fear frees a person from his limitations and brings him into a direct encounter with God in an act of faith, false fear is born of a personal limitation and is the underlying cause of what we call idolatry. According to Rav Mordechai Yosef of Ishbitz, the author's grandfather, fear is always related to a sense of lack. Simply put, one who lacks funds will fear the tax collector. One who lacks self-confidence will fear public speaking, and so forth. Psychologically speaking, human beings tend to set as personal goals or absolute truths one particular trait or approach to life. Yet this attitude invariably causes an individual to be deficient in alternative approaches, lest they disrupt his self-image and perfection. Idolatry results when this fear of deficiency is projected outwards onto the figure of the idol whom the individual fears. The idolater does this in the hopes that the idol will alleviate his fear, even though it is powerless to do so. Thus, the idolater's faith and the fear of his idol begins with the projection of his own imperfection. The opposite approach is embodied by the Jewish people. The faith that Rav Gershon, the author, posits in chapter 1 is really the affirmation of God's absolute transcendence. Even though human beings are lacking. Hello? Oh, yes, just knock on the door. Come in! The opposite approach is embodied by the Jewish people. Ariel! Ariel? Answer the door. Tell him I'm recording. The opposite approach is embodied by the Jewish people. The faith that Rav Gershon spoke of in chapter 1 is really the affirmation of God's absolute transcendence. Even though human beings are lacking, they need not fear their lack. Rather, they can use their own sense of deficiency to realize, by implication, the absolute perfection of God. In other words, our lack opens up God's completeness. Jonathan, come, we're recording. I would like you to be my guest on the Bezalel Edwards Show. Yes, come have a seat. We have Jonathan here. Jonathan Zach, the famous Nachi Jonathan Zach. Here he is. Yes, my dear good friend. Okay, so we're discussing human deficiency and human perfection. So we'll just be going on a couple more minutes, and then we will press stop. So, this Rabbi Gershon writes the following: the true foundation. Feel free to ask questions at any time. The true foundation of the fear of God is faith. Oh, and we have Fufi here. Come, Fufi, come, Fufi. Say hello to Television Land. Oh yes, okay. Now go out. Get out of here. Good dog. Okay, so the true foundation of the fear of God is faith. Out. Only by understanding and consciously believing the supreme lofty heights of God, and then actively fearing Him, does fear become complete. Man's normal experience of fear usually stems from an awareness of his own deficiencies. Of this it is said in the book of Isaiah, he makes himself an idol and bows down to it. This kind of fear in the Zohar is called their fear, meaning a fear external to the Jewish tradition. Since idolaters are deficient, they believe that by prostrating themselves to an idol and expressing their fear, stemming from a recognition of their own deficiency, in such a case, the idol will then emit a flow of energy to fill their lacks. And even though the idol is actually powerless to do so, the idolater still believes that by projecting his fear outward, he himself will become complete. Ultimately, he is only worshipping the very deficiency that he actually lacks. This is called bowing down to his idol. The word for idol in Hebrew, pesel, is connected to the word pasul, meaning invalid or deficient. Further, in the Beit Yaakov, meaning the author's father's book, it will be explained that the fear of the idolater, expressed in a place where he knows he is lacking, takes on two forms. The idolater will either erect a form of the lack itself, or a form of a fulfillment of the lack. A weak person will worship either the image of a hero, or the image of a weakling. This will be explained. The service of Israel, however, is different, for we recognize the awesome heights of God precisely through our own deficiencies. As it is written in the book of Job, from my flesh, meaning from my limitations and deficiencies and the limitations of my flesh, I shall see God. It is written in the Zohar, I will dwell among the downtrodden and the lowly of spirit. This is the place of the greatest wholeness. When one brings himself low, so that the awesome pride of the supernal one, the pride of God, a pride of all, may rest upon him, that is a place of wholeness. It's also mentioned in the Tikkun Zohar, the introduction to the Zohar. The seventh level of the fear of God is one who lacks nothing. As it is written in the Psalms, fear God, his holy ones, for there is nothing lacking for those who fear him. He is not one of those whom it is said, another withholds unduly, but only comes to lack, in the book of Proverbs. Another withholds unduly. He is not holding back improperly, but he only comes to lack. If he is a Torah scholar, he shall lack nothing in the Torah. For without Torah, there is no fear of God. This is, as it is said, an unlearned person cannot fear sin. Just as there is no Torah without the fear of God, similarly, there is no fear of God without the Torah. So, another place in the Zohar talks about human completeness, and it says, you shall see the work of God that I shall do, and it is awesome. That's in the book of Shemot. How do you say Shemot in English? Book of Exodus, yes. So Rabbi Elazar in the Zohar, the son of Rabbi Shimon, Rabbi Elazar said, it is the completion of everything. It is awesome. Awesome refers to Jacob. The Ishtam. Ishtam is the man complete in all his attributes. It's the El Agadol, Hagibor V'Nara, the great, the mighty and the awesome God. The great is Abraham. The mighty refers to the God of Isaac, and the awesome God refers to the God of Jacob. So awesome, Norah, the awe before the tremendous heights of God is the aspect of Jacob, and that's complete. Why is this Tiferet? Because it connects to above and below. It connects everything. Whenever the Zohar says, wherever you find completeness, it is called awesome. Why complete? In the terms of the tree of the Sfirot, it's right in the middle and it connects to everything. It completes everything. The fear of God rests only in a place of completeness. And another place in the Zohar says, quotes the Psalms, saying, you have established equity. This is the middle bar, signifying the Holy One, blessed be He. The middle bar in the tabernacle was what kept the walls up, going through the middle and connecting all of them. That signifies the Holy One, blessed be He. Rabbi Yitzchak in the Zohar says, this is Yaakov, Jacob. It is really the same matter. If the king is complete in all aspects, clearly his knowledge is complete in all aspects. What is the way of the king? He shines continually as the sun, for he is complete. When he judges for the good and for the bad. When a wise person sees the king's face is shining, he says, certainly the king is complete in all his aspects. His knowledge is complete, and his completeness is above all others. It is the shining light of the face that I see. I see judging me. What's judging me? The shining light of God's completeness, of his face. But it's covered. So too, the Holy One, blessed be He, is ever complete. For this reason, one must take great care to guard himself from him. So, we're going to pause now and perhaps continue with this chapter at another time. Thank you for joining the Rabbi Phil show and with Yonatan and Fufi. I'm your host, Batzal Edwards. Have a pleasant day and God bless.